Walter Russell.
Yeah, Walter Russell. In The Secret of Light, he says something to the effect of trying to figure out cause and effect in the physical world is futile because there's only one true cause. And he essentially says God or the one mind or however he says it. But that struck a chord in me so deeply. I'm like, all of these material sciences or just the scientific community is so deeply rooted in materialism that they're not, it goes beyond missing the forest for the trees. Like they don't even realize that there's more to the forest. Like the forest isn't just the physical thing that they're seeing, so to speak. Yeah, I think that's a good segue into some of your work. But so if you could share first, if you don't mind, your background, where you're coming from.
Yeah, so my name's Nico Martens, and I was born and raised in Belgium, and I'm an electromechanical engineer, and then I started working for Procter & Gamble, and I moved to the United States when I was 26 years old. And I stayed here, never left. And once I went to a doctor here, one thing became very clear. It's like, I got to figure this health thing out because it was such a bad experience. So I really went deep into health. And then my mother got diagnosed with cancer in 2010. And I'd learned a lot about alternative health. And I was like, I'm going to help you, help you get better. And when she was diagnosed, it was already like a very late stage and it was inoperable. She had breast cancer. And then ultimately in 2012, she decided to do euthanasia, which is legal in Belgium. And mind you, like my mother or neither me, we didn't believe in anything spiritual, anything subtle, anything we're going to talk about today. I didn't believe it for 36 years. And then after she passed away, I hit like rock bottom. I drank a lot and anything I could get my hands on just to numb the pain. And then just weird things started to happen. She started to appear in my dreams. And then I had also started to meditate to just feel better, and I was getting all these weird thoughts. I was like, and one day I'm like, what if these thoughts are not my own? What if that's my mother trying to reach out to me and the cat was out of the bag? And then, as the universe conspires when you wake up in a way. And a few months later, I met my first mentor who was a Reiki master, Kelly. And we would have lunch every 2 weeks, Kelly, me, and Mom in spirit. And she could channel my mother. She was born a natural channel, as if my mother was at the table. And not like trivialities, right? You remember this thing from your childhood that I'd even forgotten she would bring up. And this happened. And then my mother told Kelly, like, Nico probably thinks he's losing his mind. So I'm going to predict all these things from his future. And when they come true, he'll know he can trust us. And she did. She predicted all these things, that my dad was going to have a new girlfriend, that she was going to be 7 years younger, that she would have the same name as my mother, Godelieve, but she wanted to be called Lieve also. And then that the first time I was going to meet her, we were going to eat this special cake from this particular bakery in Belgium. And all this stuff just like came true. And for me, like I drank like the spiritual stuff, the spiritual awakening from like a fire hose. Things went really fast for me because honestly, being trained as scientist, even when I was 15 years old, there was all these questions they simply couldn't answer, right? And I wasn't talking about describe the phenomena. I was like, gravity, where is it? Is it in the center of the earth? Is it the totality? Explain it to me. And they never could, right? And I had this hunger to really figure things out. And then, I met all these like, masters, true masters, because I was a little bit into the new age. I was like, this is not for me. This is just yet another belief. I believe this stuff is true, the superhuman abilities, but I want to see it with my own eyes. Mm. And then years later, I met my Taoist master, and he's old school. He's teaching true presence. I didn't even realize that at the time. But basically, the first time I met him, he shook my hand. He just looked at me. He's like, good to see you again, Mr. Nico. And he held my hand for like a minute and a half. Little did I know, it was like already done, right? And so I did the class with him in the workshop, And I leave that room, I could not have a thought for the rest of the day. I couldn't even think about thinking.
What?
Yes, my mind was completely blank, 0 thoughts for the rest of the day. And I wake up the next morning and I look in the mirror and there's 3 new moles on my body in the center of my chest, and they're perfectly Orion's belt.
What?
And I was like, what is that? And that all then made a lot of sense later when he's also a high priest in Egyptian mystery school.
It's also interesting. For the people who are listening to this, I'm looking at the cosmic tower and it has what looks like Orion's belt literally on the front of it. We'll get to that later though.
Yeah. So all these things, just happened for me. And I wasn't like really looking for shamans and all that. They would just walk on my path and I would help them and get to know them. And then I saw what most call superhuman abilities with my own eyes. And that's really what I wanted. And then my teacher said, like, these are not superhuman abilities. These are actually our natural abilities that we've strayed away so far from, and everybody can do it. It's within your DNA. It's just, you just have to develop that. And it's not that you have to achieve something or become something else. It's already within you. You just have to let go of everything you've taken on that you're not.
Wow. That begs some deeper questions on, like, who are you truly? I don't know if you've ever heard of the neti principle. It's a way of like
you're not.
Yes, exactly. That's
Alan Watts talks about that.
Yeah. Self-realization by way of dissecting what you're and falsifying what you're clearly not. When you spent time with this Taoist master, if you could just briefly cover that, some of the things that you learned. Actually, before that, I want to dissect this a little bit more. The feeling, if you can even call it that, or the experience is probably more appropriate. The experience of having 0 thoughts. What is that like?
Well, it's the weirdest thing because...
Is it just full presence? Like you are so immersed in the present moment fully?
Yes.
Okay.
It is like that because, like, the moment you label something, you limit it. Right? That's why even... He's a true master. He will never call himself a master. He's like, I'm just starting on the path. Because they don't like labels. Labels limit things. The moment the mind gets involved, now we've limited what it can be. So it was just this full presence of experiencing this reality in a way I never had. Now, I'll tell you also, after that, I went through hell when my mind came back on, because when you have an experience like that and your vibration, for lack of a better term, gets raised that high, it's like boiling water. All the impurities come to the surface.
Oh, yeah.
So I went through hell after that. Because,
almost like a deep medicine ceremony without using any medicines.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Because, again, it's not about becoming something different. Like, it's about letting everything go that we're not. And that's where I think, like, in the New Age is all about focus, love and light, and doing this and raising your vibration. For me, the real work is all like the shadow stuff, and is the things that you're holding on to. And most of these are not even yours. Right. They just unconsciously get passed on from generation to generation. And for me, all that came to the surface like in a matter of a week. And I struggled for months to where I even wanted to kill myself. I couldn't deal with it anymore. But then later, you know, it also prompted me to really go into hypnosis and learning how to clear that. Because I realized, like, if you do not clear your subconscious mind, your subtle energies, you're just going to keep repeating the same patterns over and over. The way
that I would look at it or have thought about this is like, and I'm probably going to butcher this explanation, but funny enough, I was literally thinking about this on the way over here, is like, our soul has a deep longing for the fullest expression of our soul through this physical vessel, right? And various traumas, points of conditioning, indoctrination, limiting belief systems, and then actions derived from those things, thoughts derived from those things, and it's all circular, they all inform each other, get layered on top of our physical biology to where it makes it challenging for that soul expression to fully express through our physical being. And then it sometimes also manifests as physical disease. And then layer on top this life force limiting world that we have created based on our lack of awareness of our true full expression, lack of true full expression itself, that then causes more distortions in our biology that limit our full expression of our soul. That's that's how I've painted the canvas of how it works in my mind.
Yeah, like the body is really the crystallization of everything you hold in your mind. Positive and negative, if you want to call it that. But then also these traumas that happen to us like early on in life, they're not random. I mean, in my opinion, there's in a sense soul contracts that we've made for those things to be done to us, because that in a sense you could look at it, the sum total of the karma you still have to resolve, if you want to use the word karma. So because of that, because of those things happening at a young age, oftentimes when we're still in the womb till about 8-7, you're like a blank hard drive and you have all these experiences and all these traumas. And traumas doesn't necessarily mean a really bad thing that happens to you. You perceived it as a trauma at that time. And that is really everything you still have to work out. And the beauty of that is now it's all in your emotional body. You don't even have to go to past lifetimes to go resolve it. It's all right here, right now in your emotional body. And like those are also for me the gateways to like your higher expression and your higher self. They're not all like in the light. No, they're hiding in the dark. That's where the portal is. And that's why, you know, we're being taught to be afraid of the dark and the shadows and to not go look there, because that's where our true power lies.
Totally agree. Totally agree. Okay, now I want to get to the experience of sitting and being in the presence of a Taoist master and working with him, if you don't mind just touching on that a little bit.
Yeah.
And I want to share some context, and I discussed this with you before we clicked record. It's because I'm just so incredibly curious about our human potential. That's it. And I have shared a number of times on this podcast. I've sat with my mentor, Dr. Edith Ubuntu Chan, on this podcast as well, where she's describing and we're showing footage of the children who can perceive blindfolded. And she uses this analogy that's like, imagine human beings had never swam before. Like they were always told, we can't swim, that's absurd. And then one jumps in the water and they're like, oh, what are you doing? Like, that's insane. But then they see that he can swim. And then everyone realizes, oh, we can all do this too. Let's start jumping and cultivating this ability. And then they're doing it together and they're learning from each other. And then it transitions into like being able to swim super fast and do all these crazy acrobatics in the water. And then, oh, what else can we do? We can build boats. We can do all these things in the water. That's the analogy she used, and it's probably a poor example of it. But the point is, I think the ability to perceive blindfolded, as these children have demonstrated, is merely scratching the surface of what our true potential is. And I don't even know if potential is the right word. It's like our true state that we are remembering and hoping to get back to, and dissolving the illusions of what we are not in order to get back to, so to speak. So if you could share just a little bit, that'd be cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're correct. Like, it is our natural state. It's just everything that we've layered over top that we need to release. And the hardest part, because this practice, I mean, he teaches the water school. I mean, you have a lot of fire paths, which are all about effort, visualization, you know, and it takes a long time and you have to be really careful, Kundalini. And this is the opposite path. This is a more rare path that precedes the fire path, which is the water path. And again, the water path is you already it. You only have to let go of everything that you're not. And that is the hardest thing to do for human beings, right? Because we always want to manipulate things. We want to change things. So really the practices are very simple. And that's what I've learned. If you look at like true masters, I've noticed a few things. One of them is that they're all very playful and childlike. They're not serious. Serious doesn't get you there, right? And I've never heard him speak a bad word about another person.
Wow.
And then the practices are always very simple. But the Western mind wants a new shiny penny, wants to make it more complicated, and that's the stuff that gets us trapped. So these practices are really, really simple, which is like there's a form of like a spontaneous Neigong, which you just activate the process, and the body is just going to do its thing.
Yeah.
And you just have to get out of the way.
Wow.
Right? And then I don't know if you've ever seen like TRE, trauma release exercise. It kind of looks like that. And your body starts shaking and whatever. And it's just shaking off everything that is blocked, everything that's no longer serves you. And you just have to stay out of the way. Wow. And then when it's finished for the day, it just like stops again. Wow. And you just keep doing that because a lot of people talk about activating other strands of DNA and this, that, and the other, but most people do not have enough energy to turn the key, right? To turn it over. So the first practice is really the spontaneous Neigong, which is like you shaking off everything.
So interesting. So I interviewed this lady named Laura Day, who's become a friend of mine. And the day before I interviewed her, she took me through a practice that she has called neurogenic Qigong. And I do Qigong every morning. In fact, my mentor, who I mentioned, Dr. Edith, who activates the kids into blindfold vision, she taught me Qigong. She's my Qigong teacher. But this neurogenic Qigong that I did with Laura, you like sit in a certain position so that your body spontaneously shakes. Yeah. And it's similar to how animals, after they've been chased and they finally get to a safe space, shake off all of the tension, so to speak. And I don't know if it's similar to that. I'd be interested to try this practice actually, but there's something to that. It's really interesting. It's like shaking off all of the tension that you're holding up to that point to come back to a more natural state. Is that somewhat of the premise?
It's exactly like that. So you hold a pose to activate the energy, and you almost like lift up your heels.
Yes.
Yeah, you get
that's
out.
It. Yeah.
Yeah. Might be same teacher.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yes, and that's one of the core practices.
Wow. Okay, Laura, shout out to you. I need to do that. I mean, it was incredible when I experienced it. It was truly incredible. And spontaneously, emotions were coming up all over the place. It was really, really incredible.
Yeah, and then this bliss starts to activate. And one day it activated for me, and I got like tired of it because it wouldn't stop. Oh, it went on for like 4 days. Like,
oh boy!
I mean, think about that.
I need some trauma.
Yeah.
Someone punch me, please. Oh man. Okay, so when you're with this, like, what are some of the things that you experience, just out of curiosity, of sitting with this Taoist master when it comes to like human potential? Or just some windows into that.
Yeah. First of all, like, I've always been very telepathic. I didn't realize that. I thought most people were like that. So as a child, I always remember thinking, how could Dad think that? Like, like I'm like right here. And then I started to realize later on, like, that most people have lost that connection. Not when I was sitting with him. Basically, every question that would come up, and he'd be like looking at me, and he'd answer. And that happened not one time. That happened like 5, 6 times, like in a row, to where there's this continuous communication, seen and unseen. And then, once he stopped answering like verbally, he's like, okay, you got it now, that this is like a real thing and that you can do it.
He kind of like gave you a nod, almost like, oh, you see now, you get it.
Yeah. Wow. And he would teach in parallel, and then I would have like questions, and I would just ask him, and he would answer that as he's like talking to the rest of the group.
Wow.
But it's like really old school, meaning it's teaching through presence. If you are ready, just being in his presence is already enough.
Wow.
To start the whole process for you. And for me, I felt like, in a way, almost like got a zip file, because years later, this is still unpacking things he would talk about, and I was like, what the heck does he mean by that? And years later, I was like, oh, that's what he's talking about.
Wow.
Right?
Wow, that's incredible. Wow. Yeah, it brings into question for me, like, I know we talked about a little bit off air, obviously blindfold vision is an example, but like spoon bending would be another one that I've talked about on this show. And you brought up how a true master does not share, or something to that effect. Like it's one of the cities, right? Can you touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, he talks about 72 cities, 72, you call them superpowers, anywhere from levitation to teleportation, all of these. But he always said, like, when those things start opening up for you, that is between you and source. That those are your gifts. Do not do it for the gifts. The gifts are side effects of the process you're going through. So keep them to yourself, because else things can happen. You can lose them, right? Because people's ego might get in the way. Oh, look what I can do, right? Party tricks or whatever, and that then inhibits your journey and the process that you're going through, because the whole point is to not feed the ego with more cool stuff, and it's also not to like get rid or like kill the ego, right? It's just
the balance with it.
It's a balance, and it's about embodiment. For me, this is not about, you hear about ascension and we're going to go here. No, we have to come more into the body.
I love that so much.
It's about, because I had the same thing, like after all things started to wake up within me, I was like, I want to go sit somewhere on a mountain and have nothing to do with this world. It's too crazy. He's like, nope, you've done that in other lifetimes. This lifetime is about participating in society, being a part of this crazy world, and holding that resonance, holding that harmony, holding that energy in your body.
I love that. Oh, I love that so much. With these kids, it's like, people who are skeptical and closed-minded, you don't want to be around those types of people with any of these abilities, according to Dr. Edith. And it makes a lot of sense, because there was a few circumstances at confluence with people who are skeptical and closed-minded versus being skeptical and open-minded, right?
Yes.
Which is healthy. But with these kids, like, the people who are skeptical and closed-minded that happen to come across it, because we have the evidence and it's pretty undeniable at this point, their next thing is, well, so what? Who cares if you can do this? And for me, the whole point, even in communicating this with the masses, using this platform in the times that I've referred to it myself, is not because of the act itself. It's not about the act. It's about the much, much, much deeper implications of what that means to be a human being and what our true nature is available to all of us. Like, that's why. That's the why. Let alone how, like, in the process of the blindfold vision activation, I got to witness my son go through it. And in the first class, it's really getting the kids to know the difference, or to discern the difference between guessing and knowing. So it's like strengthening your intuition. And Dr. Edith and Bodan, her co-facilitator, say throughout the course, we want you to get it wrong. We want you to get it wrong. And it's a perfect analogy for life. Like, hey, we want you to get this wrong so that when you get it right, you pay attention. What did that feel like inside your body now that you're getting it right? And being able to discern between the two, and then this cascade of other things that leads to, and the deeper questions about what that implies about who and what we truly are. And I think this is a great segue, because, we were talking before, we're so caught up in materialism, even for those of us who have not been as indoctrinated into Western science, right? Scientism, really. And like you, I was a systems engineer. That's what was my undergraduate degree. So pretty indoctrinated in that level. But there's so much more happening around us metaphysically that we don't readily perceive with our 5 primary, if you want to call them that, senses. And you talk about that so brilliantly. So I'm going to give the floor over to you now.
Well, yeah, what we perceive, or what science perceives to be reality, is 2% or less of what the reality. It's the world of the senses. It's the world of cause and effect. It's the world of linear time. It's just the left brain, right? But underlying that is the 98% that really governs our reality, everything that we see, and there is no time there. It's multidimensional in nature, and it's not governed by linearity, by cause and effect. It's governed by resonance. And actually the 98% is the 100% in a way, because that 2% of the senses, right, it's still governed by what's underneath it. And for us, it's a process of remembrance. I always tell people we don't have to discover anything new. It's remembering what we used to know when we were much closer with nature. And because we've gone through this, to where we really developed the left brain and our analytical abilities and us as a separate self. And that really served humanity up to a certain point, to where we got really good at logic and those things. But now is a time to come back into that 98%. And it's the same, like, this is why I went to study hypnosis. I realized I couldn't think my way out of my problems. It's your mind that causes the problems. You're never going to be able to solve it. So it's your subconscious. It's what's below the water level with an iceberg. That's really what drives your life. So that's how it is for hypnosis and when you're dealing with limiting beliefs or emotions that are stuck. But it's also true for what shapes this world, what runs our biology. We're not sitting here like beat, telling our heart to beat. No, it happens, right? It happens naturally. So that just goes to show that we're really not being run by our mind. Our mind really gets in the way. So I'm not saying this, we have to ditch all the logic and everything we've learned. No, right? The mind is powerful, but it shouldn't be the master. The heart, which has the connection to the 98%, which doesn't live in time, in a sense. That's where the real wisdom is. And when the heart is the general, and then the mind can assist through logic, that's where we want to come back to. And it's not that we have to swing the pendulum all the way to the other side.
Yeah.
So coming back into that balance. And for me, it was beautiful when that world opened up, because quite frankly, I was bored. Like, this whole, like, everything I'd been taught in school and then my entire career, and I followed the playbook of society. I was like, I've done everything. I got a good degree. I got a great job. I got all the trinkets, but I'm not happy. I'm empty inside. And then something profound happened, right, that woke me up. And I was like, oh my God, there's this 98%, this entire playground that I haven't even fiddled with. So that just opened up all these new avenues. And once I started to explore that, the things that never made sense with science, all of a sudden they started to make sense.
Wow. That's kind of my path as well, and like in a very similar way, in that there's so many things that I've come to understand. If you even bring back into the concept like ether, right?
Yeah.
Like, that makes so much sense, where modern science conjures up theoretical particles that they've never demonstrated to exist, when it could be much easier to explain when you bring in the concept of ether or something like this, Yeah,
absolutely. It's clear that there's an ether. And I remember getting in trouble in school when I was 15 years old, because the teacher would tell me that these light waves would travel all the way from the sun to the earth. But I was like, how's that possible if it's empty in between? Right. I mean, you need a medium to have a vibration. That's pretty clear. No. Then it changes into like a particle, and then it becomes this duality. No, there are no particles. This world is not made up of little marbles. Right? It's all vibration of a medium. Right. I mean, look at cymatics, and those things. It's really clear. So let go of this whole atom cult, please. Yeah. Like, pretending that they're particles, because, I mean, and then they're smashing these together at CERN all day long. But once you know that everything is conscious in this universe, that's another thing. Consciousness, science is just like, oh, it's just hallucination in your head. Well, no, it's not. We've all had those experiences. It's clearly that conscious, like with spiritual traditions, is at the core of everything. It's not this hallucination. So when you realize that everything is conscious, all the way from the electron to the universe itself, almost like Russian dolls, all nested within each other, all these beings, well, you would really want to stop smashing particles together.
Right. Yeah. So well said. You talk about how the unseen shapes the seen. Can we get into that a little bit too?
Absolutely. So if you look at mainstream science, it all starts with the Big Bang. Out of nothing exploded everything. I could never wrap my head around that. And that's the start. And while it's true that is really like the spark in a way into this electromagnetic realm, this realm that we consider the known universe. If you look at other more holistic sciences, and I studied biogeometry with Dr. Gilbert, unfortunately passed away in February, and then I spent time in Egypt and learned a lot of the work of Dr. Karim. It's a much more holistic science, what he calls the science of quality, that we don't talk about it starts with the Big Bang. No, we talk about actually things being slowed down all the way to the speed of light and then causing the spark, what then creates our known universe. But that's the 98% that's behind it. So if you go beyond the speed of light, you have we call it the vitality plane, the emotional plane, the mental plane, the spiritual plane. And that's where my beef lies with science, because science is supposed to be the study of phenomena. But then us having emotions or thoughts, no, that's just in your head. That's not part of the phenomena. No, that's an integral part of it. These are phenomena that all of us experience every day. How can you exclude that? The same with consciousness. So if we go to what I mean, a more true science is holistic. Mm-hmm. And it includes not just what we can perceive or what we can measure, but it also includes the entire subtle reality that lies underneath it, mm-hmm. which includes our emotional or mental plane, the spiritual planes, the energetic plane. And that is really what gives rise and what shapes what we consider and what science considers to be reality. Mm-hmm. And because all these layers affect each other. So in biogeometry, they're broken up from the physical plane, the vitality plane, emotional, mental, spiritual. But each of the layers affect each other. Mm-hmm. But the higher planes are more powerful. Subtle does not mean weak. Subtle means not perceivable to most or to most of our interests. And I think that's oftentimes where people go wrong, because they associate subtle with being weak.
It's such an important point too, because I've even thought about this quite a bit. Now, how we say that human beings can only perceive whatever percentage of the electromagnetic spectrum, and that's what you're referencing here, like the 98 versus the 2. Really, it's less than, or it's more than 98 that we can't perceive. Yep. But even then, that's based in, from my understanding, that human beings we're able to measure a broader range of the spectrum, right? Mm-hmm. So that percentage limit that we put on it that we can't see is based on our own ability to measure it. So it could be far beyond that which we can measure. We could only be perceiving 0.0. We could throw 100 zeros, 0.0000000, whatever percentage of the available electromagnetic spectrum and the happenings around us, right?
Yes.
Have you thought about that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think human beings are unique in a sense that we're able to access all the layers. Mm-hmm. So we have to develop these other organs that allow us to perceive these more subtle realms. Just like you have your eyes that can see in a particular spectrum, like with the kids, you can see in a far greater spectrum, but it's like it has atrophied for us. So it's all about rediscovering how we can perceive this 98%, because we talk about the unconscious mind, but there's really no such thing as unconsciousness.
Thank you, because that has never sat well with me.
Yeah. I like to talk about unawareness, Because if you look at a yogi, if you look at a lama, they can actually get to the point where they can control their heartbeat and really bring it down. So it's not that it's unconscious and untouchable, it's just that it's not in our conscious awareness. So as we open our awareness up to more of these subtle layers, then we're capable of influencing a lot more things, because the first thing for you to be able to influence something, well, first you got to be aware of it. You cannot influence what you're unaware of. And it's only then when you become aware of something, then you can start to notice how other layers of our reality work.
How has that informed your work? And I don't know if we want to get to this yet, but how has that informed how have you merged your understanding of material sciences with this new understanding that you've developed? Deep sleep, or in-REM sleep, is crucial for our body's daily rejuvenation, repair, and overall well-being. And unfortunately, most people fail to get enough of this essential phase of sleep. It's responsible for some pretty crucial functions, including daily rejuvenation and repair, regulating cravings, weight loss, hormone balance, boosting energy, and more. And if you're not getting enough deep sleep, you may struggle with some of the issues that I listed. There are several factors at play, including things like non-native EMF exposure, artificial light exposure, and circadian dysregulation. But another big reason for a lack of deep sleep is magnesium deficiency. Over 80% of the population is deficient in magnesium, and magnesium plays a crucial role in our sleep, one of which is increasing gamma-aminobutyric acid, or GABA, which encourages relaxation on a cellular level. Magnesium also plays a key role in regulating your body's stress response, and when you're deficient, you tend to have higher stress levels, which, as you can imagine, doesn't exactly help with sleep. Now, before you go out and buy a magnesium supplement, it's important to understand that most products out there only have 1 to 2 forms of magnesium, when the reality is your body needs all 7 forms of this essential sleep mineral. That's why I recommend Magnesium Breakthrough. Magnesium Breakthrough from BiOptimizers contains all 7 forms of magnesium, designed to help calm your mind, help you fall asleep, stay asleep, and wake up feeling refreshed. The deep sleep benefits when you get all 7 forms of magnesium through Magnesium Breakthrough are really noticeable. And as I've shared before, I don't take a lot of supplements, nor do I promote a lot of supplements, but this is one supplement that my family is regularly using. And there's a reason that this is a best-selling product for BiOptimizers. For an exclusive offer, go to BiOptimizers.com/Alec, or just head to the show notes and use promo code ALEC10 during checkout to save 10%. And if you subscribe, not only will you get amazing discounts and free gifts, you will also make sure your monthly supply is guaranteed. There's a recent poll that I put out on all my social media channels, and 95% of people responded that they're struggling to find their health and freedom community in person. And don't get me wrong, these platforms, these devices that you're listening to or watching this podcast on right now are great for helping to disseminate information, helping us, find like-minded people to validate us, but they are not a replacement for real in-person community. At the core of our new community platform is a powerful, easy-to-use map helping you to instantly connect with like-hearted, like-minded community, including men and women, farms, schools, practitioners of all types, and other businesses near you. The platform also includes groups, social functions, messaging, and Platinum members also get access to our content library with footage from all of our in-person and virtual events like Confluence and the end of COVID, as well as breathwork sessions, Qigong sessions, member Q&As, and also member community calls. So if you'd like to support this podcast and support our mission of helping people to connect hyper-locally in person, and also obviously support yourself in the process, go to the show notes or just go to thewayforward.com/join. And again, the way forward is spelled thewayforward.com/join to become a member today. Help us build the way forward for mankind.
Yeah, so first of all, I want to tell you, I love to figure out how stuff works. But before it was because something was missing. That's not the case for me anymore. In a sense, I'm not going to say I know who I am, you can't really say, but you get the idea. I'm not searching
Right.
for that anymore. I'm just in this process of letting go of everything that I'm not, knowing that the truth will appear, but also knowing you can't speak the truth. Because you cannot describe the undescribable. That's where the not this, not that comes in.
You're saying so many of the things that this is wild. Like throughout this whole episode, you're saying so many of the things that I've said. That's so cool.
Right? So, like, I'm not even trying to define that.
Yeah.
I'm just allowing myself to have that experience. But I'm also an engineer and a scientist at heart. So I love to figure out how things work, but just more for fun.
Yeah.
And before that, I was like, why do I have to go through 36 years of the science cult where they taught me all this wrong stuff that I have to unlearn now, basically? Well, it all made sense in the last couple of years as I started studying with Dr. Kareem, learning about, and there's a lot of other scientists that are doing great work here. You have Dan Winter, you have so many others, and they all, for me, none of them has the whole picture, but they all have pieces of it. And as I started to learn about these things, I was able to translate it back to traditional science. And I found my explanations of where traditional science or even quantum physics, and I do not like that word. Quantum is just like this, oh my goodness, we don't really know how it works, so we're going to call it quantum. I mean, I never understood it. Like in university, I was like, this makes like no sense.
Makes no sense.
So I don't like to use that word. I like Dr. Kareem, the quality.
Yeah.
I like that word a lot better. But like spooky action at a distance from Einstein never made sense to me until I started studying like biogeometry and some of these other new ancient sciences that we're rediscovering, and then all of a sudden it started to make sense. So now I realize that part of what I'm here for is to form a bridge and to show that you don't have science in one corner, spirituality in another, but they're really different perspectives on the same thing.
Yeah, very well said. That's so beautiful. Can we touch on his work with like biogeometry and building biology as well? Like both of those? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So he coined it the physics of quality. And if you look at traditional science, we're always focused on quantity. How much hertz, how many oscillations. But like, for example, if we talk about electromagnetism, I could have a healing device here and I could have a weapon here, and the EMF meter will tell you, oh, this is the strength of the field. One will kill you and one has the potential to heal you. An EMF meter cannot tell you anything about that. So the physics of quality is much more interested in what's the effect of this energy on a living organism versus how much of that. If I give you 2 potions, what are you going to ask me? Hey, what's the right dose? Or are you going to ask me which one is the poison and which one's the supplement?
Right.
That's quality. Quality precedes quantity.
Got it.
And it's a whole different way of looking at things. And so what Dr. Kareem coined the physics of quality is holistic, that it realizes that everything is one. And then we can break it up in the physical, energetic, emotional, mental, and spiritual plane. But that's just a way for us tuning into different layers of what all is one anyway. And what's central in it is life force. And that to me is so important, because the most potent energy that makes galaxies spin, that makes planets, revolve around stars, it's life force. And we've forgotten about it, and science doesn't acknowledge this one force that powers everything. So Dr. Kareem's work really takes life force into account and makes it an integral part of science again. And then also I spent the last 3 winters in Egypt. I have a special relationship with Egypt. I know a lot of the elders, and actually I asked my mother at 5 years old in Belgium, and I saw a picture of the pyramids. I was like, Mom, where are those? She said, like, they're in Egypt, Nico. I was like, Mom, I got to go back there.
Got to go back there.
Yes.
Wow.
So what I told my mother is, so I've always been fascinated by the temples, and it's through Dr. Kareem's work and also some of my Taoist teachers' work, I've gotten a whole new appreciation of what the temples are really about.
Can you share about that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, let me be clear right off the bat, which is they were clearly a much higher civilization.
Yes.
Than ours. You cannot put 2.4 million blocks that are 30, 40 tons or more with that precision. We cannot do it today. And even my Egyptologist friends in Egypt, they will agree with me, but they cannot say it publicly or they lose their license. They have to
go with
tell
the whole
story.
Slaves pulling thing with like pulley systems.
It is absolute nonsense. Even my Egyptian friend Syed, who's an Egyptologist, tells me, he's like, Nico, this is impossible. You know that they had to put down one block, 40-ton block, every 3.5 minutes. It's not possible.
No, literally not
Right,
possible.
so they were clearly a much higher civilization, and they were also not tombs for pharaohs and all that. No. One of the things about a higher civilization is they realize are interconnected with nature. We live in the earth, not on the earth. We are an integral part of nature. My lungs do not operate without the trees. And we've forgotten that as humanity, and we keep cannibalizing nature instead of realizing that we're cannibalizing ourselves with doing this. So we have to come back to that knowing that we're an integral part of nature, and everything is conscious. And when you live in with those principles, you become, at least for me, you become a completely different being. So what the ancients would do, because I lived in Luxor the last 3 years, where most of the temples are, 80% of the temples are in Luxor. And what they would do is, it's not about the temples, it's about where the temples were built. That's why you see church upon church upon church. It's not because one religion wanted to conquer another or take over. No, it's because of what's under the temple. It's what's already naturally present, which is a sacred power spot. And sacred power spots in nature are vortexes of energy. Most people are familiar with Sedona, and you go to the vortex. Actually, they're toroidal fields, and they're created by underground water crossings at certain angles. And that water is not like tap water. It's living water, right? That has like healing water that has all kinds of frequencies in it. And when they cross, it creates this vortex, which is a very beneficial energy for all of life. So the Egyptians, they would map out where these vortices were, and then they would build temples on top of them. And these temples were then created in a way using materials and geometries that would amplify the natural energy that was already there. Wow. And then those were connected through roads. And what they were able to do was they would take these divine energies in a way from the earth and spread them through the entire civilization, to where not only the humans were uplifted and supported, but also the animals, the land, the plants, and everything. So everything was supported in their society, and they would spread this beneficial energy through their entire civilization. And that's how, for me, not how they became such a high civilization, but it's because they were such a high civilization. That's how they built. They didn't build in nature, they built with nature. They understood the forming process in nature, and they would build with that wisdom. And you can also see it in Europe. If you go to Zurich, like there is still over 1,000 like healing fountains in Zurich. And a city like that feels much more alive because it's built to spread life force. which life force is really what all of us run on, to spread life force through the civilization so everybody can thrive. If you go today to like a smart city, which is really the dumbest thing you can come up with, because a smart city can do anything except you can't live in it. It'll kill you.
Except it's horrible for you, right? As all this technological advancement is literally horrible for you.
Well, because we sacrifice our vitality. And I'm not saying there's no convenience. I mean, because of these technologies, we can speak to people all over the world,
right? Exactly.
Right. But what we need to have, what we have to come back to, it cannot be at the cost of life force. So we can build technologies to where life force is in it again, meaning that we can do everything that we want to do, but not at the cost of our own vitality, to build technologies with nature that have life force in them, just like the Egyptians did.
This is such a fun conversation for me, and one that I still need to dive down a little bit more with someone who's well trained in building biology specifically. I don't know if you are, but are you?
Well, I've done the advanced biogeometry, and I'm going to do the next levels. I consider myself a student.
Okay, cool. I'm sure you know way more than I do. But the point that I'm getting at is the way that we build our modern buildings, just that, and let alone all the other the non-native EMFs and things like this, but just the way we construct them, and even toxicity of building materials aside, because that's a whole separate conversation. But the way that everything is a box like this room, don't get me wrong, I love this studio, but I'm sitting in a box right now.
Yeah.
There's no straight lines in nature. Nature doesn't have straight lines like this, right? And I've always wondered that, even since I was little, is this good for my health, I thought about that so much, and I don't think that is. When you look at these past more advanced civilizations, or even look at the Texas State Capitol. I don't know if you've gone down those rabbit holes on alternative history, but the Texas State Capitol and a variety of other Capitol buildings that look like resonant sound healing chambers. That's what they look like. And they're built with stone masonry and have this perfect geometry about them. It's invoking a sense of awe, and then it becomes even more nefarious that the government's occupying them. So you look to the government and subconsciously you're oh, I have awe for the government, but it's, the point that I'm getting at is it goes even beyond the toxicity of the actual materials themselves physically, the biochemistry in our bodies. It's also that they're just not good for the life force metaphysically as well. Absolutely
not. They drain our life force. And if you look at the ancients, how they built, and first of all, the pyramids could have never been built by slaves. Why? Because only a free man could build a temple, and had to go through a cleansing ritual first, spiritual, 40 days of fasting, go all through these spiritual initiations before the person could even touch a block on a temple. And that's where then you had to be a free man, and you were a mason, a free mason. Right? That's where that comes from, because you had to understand nature's principles, energetic principles to build these. So if you look, how did the real ancient civilizations figure this out? Well, they would figure out that certain animals would go to certain spots. Then in certain places, their cattle would do way better. Okay, we're going to hang out here. Then they figured out if you put a stone on it, you could even amplify that energy. And then they figured out if you make a gate and then you put a mound on it, and then ultimately you get to the pyramids. Right? That's how we naturally figure this out. But you're absolutely correct. We've lost all that knowledge. So now we're building on the earth, no longer with the earth. We want to build with the earth, meaning we want to find the natural power spots, but we also want to figure out there's detrimental lines also. Detrimental energy grids, which have become way more toxic because of all the EMFs that go into resonance with it. So ideally, you map out all those lines, and then based on the natural power spots that are present, you're going to determine where you're going to build your structures, in what orientation, what materials to use, what shapes to use. As you say, there's not a straight line. in nature. And it's really one of the things that I'm passionate about, because in the future I want to like build a house like that. I want to build a community like that where everything is gonna thrive.
Yeah.
Simply because we're respecting the forming process of nature, and we're building with nature. So absolutely correct. What we have now, I mean, the box, the cube, is probably about the worst,
Right.
Geometry that you can pick. And then also the building materials are toxic, but then there are solutions for that in biogeometry, right? You have the material imbalancing wheel, to where you take every material that you build with, and you find the right angle, and it gets infused with this harmonizing quality, the BG3 that they call it. So,
wow.
So we have all these technologies now to do it, and we're gonna need it, because we cannot keep going down this path. Everybody's getting sick, people are not thriving, changes have to be made. The great news is everything is already there to do it. We just have to start using it.
Amen. Amen. Have you been in any buildings designed by Ibrahim Karim?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been to Embodiment. That's where their headquarters is, in a way. The Villa Embodiment, where Dr. Karim teaches from a lot. And the cool thing is, like, there's all this furniture that's designed to generate life force and this one centering quality. So you can actually go there and, they have chairs that harmonize, that generate life force, and it's all there in a way, and it feels amazing.
Wow, that's incredible. Yeah, I have a friend, I don't remember which of my friends was talking to me about this. I think it was Ryan Sprague. Ryan, if you ever listen to this, let me know if it wasn't you. I'm pretty sure it was him, who has been in a house of another friend who consulted with Ibrahim Karim to help design the whole house. And he was like, dude, even before I knew that, I walked in that place and I was like, there is something different about this.
Absolutely. The house that we rented on the West Bank in Luxor, it's a 5-bedroom like temple house that was built by our Egyptologist friend, and he actually built in like all the energetic principles that he learned from the temple. So it's all dome-shaped ceilings and all these different, because one of the things you have to understand, the Egyptians, they didn't just create 2-dimensional grids. They would make them 3-dimensional by connecting them to the power spots in the sky. Wow. That's why you have the shafts in the pyramid, to Sirius and to other constellations, because at the right time of year, when that star system comes over the horizon, if you have the right proportions in like the shaft, you can actually anchor that energy, that harmonizing energy, that power spot for the rest of the year in that room or in that building.
Wow, that's incredible.
And you can do that actually in your house, and it's something you learn in the advanced biogeometry, how to anchor these sacred power spots into your room or into your house.
So incredible. The thing with this, though, of like building biology, biogeometry, and just like how we've constructed our modern homes is like trying to get general contractors, trying to get banks that give loans for homes, and like that whole paradigm is going to be a tough thing to break into. Yeah. So I just hope we get to the point where everyone's building their home that way eventually, like really taking all those things into consideration. I mean, for us, when we just purchased our house a few months ago, just moved, we got into it when they were in the midst of the building process, and even just trying to get them to do, hey, we don't want to use the spray insulation. We would rather use like wool. We're willing to pay extra. They weren't even willing to do that. So yes. Like that's steps below, like so many steps below being able to design this way.
Yeah, I agree with you. But the good thing is we can remediate anything we have now, and that's just how it's gonna have to go for now. And then more people like us that have the knowledge are gonna build structures like that, and we're gonna say, like, screw it, we'll find somebody that does, because I've met a lot of general contractors in the biogeometry trainings now, which makes me very hopeful that they're going to start doing that. And like anything else in the world, people are going to be, man, your home feels so much better. Why is that? Well, because it was built according to these principles using this guy, and they're just going to start doing much better. We don't change the world by fighting the old. We outcreate it.
Amen.
And we put our energy towards the solution, creating it ourselves and having a community of people that do that. And these old systems that try to control us, keep us limited, is just going to fall away and crumble.
Amen. Amen. So well said. So let's talk about the Cosmic Tower now. For those who are listening on audio, maybe you could just look up a picture of it, check in the show notes. This thing looks like it's straight out of Egypt. Let's put it that way. So describe to me just the process of developing this.
Yeah, so I didn't develop this. This was developed by Harald Thiers in Germany. And together with his son, he created devices that preceded the Cosmic Tower, because his son was basically born with complete access to the soul realm, in a sense, right? So, and one day he told his dad, he's like, "Dad, have you forgotten what we came here for? We have to build the new light grid. And I can talk to upstairs, but you're an engineer. You're going to have to help me build the structure." Right? So that's how that process started. And if you look at a Cosmic Tower, it's about what's inside of it, but it's really about the energy. What's in the unseen, again, in the 98%. So if you would look inside a Cosmic Tower, what you would find is two vessels of water, one in the bottom, one in the top, not regular water, right? This is forward-phase living water. And what they did is they went through samples of over 600 healing wells all over Europe. A lady had a collection, and then his son figured out which ones of these samples that they could put together to where there was no overlap in frequencies. So when they put two samples together, they created what the inventor called rainbow water, meaning it was living forward-phase water, healing water, with the full rainbow spectrum present in the water, the full light spectrum present. So we have this living water in those two vessels, one on the bottom, one at the top, and then there's a crystal in the center. And then this gets activated to where the water in the bottom starts spinning counterclockwise. It's not that if you look at it, the water would be going like that, but think on a subatomic, on a torsion level, everything going counterclockwise. The water in the top gets programmed to go clockwise. What happens when you do that? You open a toroidal field. Right? You create a toroidal field, which then gets anchored in the center with the crystal. So there's really in the center of everything, you have access to all like the higher dimensions. It's like a portal in a sense. Like if you take a circle, well, the center doesn't really exist in time-space, because if I put a dot there, that's a circle also. Mm-hmm. So it just keeps going. So the center is, in a sense, it's a portal to all the higher dimensions. So once this toroidal field is activated, it gets a continuous throughput from the higher dimensions and puts this harmonizing energy into our environment. And then it will create what people call scalar waves. I like to use longitudinal compression waves, which is scalar waves are a form of that. And what they do is they carry the quality of its source far and wide through the environment, which in this case is the rainbow water. It's this healing water with the full spectrum of light for living organisms to thrive present.
What is the radius of it?
The radius depends on the size. So what determines how powerful it is A, how much water is in it, and then how far the vessels are spread apart. When they're spread apart further, it will go out further. So this one here is a Cosmic Tower 75, and the 75 is how many centimeters tall it is. And this one, it will go in a radius, I'd say about 400 to 600 yards. Why can I not give you an exact number? Because it depends where you live. If you live in downtown New York with all the 5G and all the Wi-Fi around, or you live in a ranch in Wyoming, it's a very different energetic environment. So the actual radius will depend on how much distortion is present in the environment. But this one typically, I'd say at least 350 yards, at least 1,000 to 1,100 feet around your home,
Wow.
where it's basically like a sacred power spot. Because remember when we were talking about sacred power spots and temples, what creates that? Underground water, living, healing water crossing. So here you have the water that creates a sacred power spot, but it's a modern version to where you can bring a sacred power spot into your home.
So then, because we're water-based beings, that rainbow water essentially is being emitted through the field that this is creating and impacting the waters of our bodies.
Yes, it does. So it presents all the healing frequencies that are present in the water to your body. And then if your body doesn't need it, fine. Right? But if it does need it, it will feed that. And what really got me excited about this project was that it wasn't just focused on, I need an EMF solution to protect me and my family. And I get where people are coming from, but what about nature?
Yeah.
Because if you look at the really big towers, the 220 and the 250, I mean, they go about 500 miles in diameter, so about 250-mile radius, where they harmonize the environment, where they regenerate nature, where they deal with 5G. And that's what got me excited. Finally, a solution I could get behind, because we're taking nature into account and we're becoming stewards again for nature versus cannibalizing nature. Does that mean, so if you look at a 220, for example, 250-mile radius, 500 miles in diameter, does it mean you just need one for Austin and you're done? No, because you again have to look. Even though it has a harmonizing effect that far, it cannot harmonize everything.
Makes sense.
Right? So you're going to need multiples.
If there's so many points of distortion, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Right? So look at it at the total distortion in a city like this much, and a tower brings in this much energy. You're going to need that many to harmonize it all and to neutralize it all. And that's really my vision for this, is to have a world in a couple of years from now where families don't have to worry about EMF in their home, because we've built a new grid that actually takes care of all these things systemically versus each and every one for ourselves.
Yeah.
Right.
How does this interact with the non-native EMFs that are detrimental to our health?
When we get into non-native EMFs, first there's an important thing we need to understand, which is most people, when we talk about non-native EMF, only look at electromagnetic. Right? And you can measure electromagnetic radiation with an EMF meter. The further you go from the source, it decreases. That's only one part of it. And the best analogy I can give you is when you see a boat go through water, you have the big wave first, which is like the electromagnetic radiation. But then after that boat is gone, all these ripples, they linger. And they spread far and wide. And that's the secondary effect. And these are longitudinal compression or scalar waves. They're not electromagnetic in nature. So you cannot pick them up with an EMF meter, but these basically distort all levels of our being, emotionally, mentally, our vitality, and you cannot shield yourself from it. With a Faraday cage, they travel right through it, and that's a secondary effect we call electrosmog in biogeometry. Another analogy is the rain coming down as a radiation, but then the fog that lingers is the electrosmog. And this affects us on a mental, emotional level, and also physically, of course, and that you cannot shield yourself from it. Shielding is not a solution with EMF. You can't. So the only thing we can do with this is harmonize it. That's what Dr. Karim did in the Miracle of Hamburg, they call it, where everybody was getting sick and the wildlife was fleeing and miscarriages were happening and everybody was getting aggressive with each other because they had put cell phone antennas in the local church.
Wow.
So he got called in by Swiss Telecom. It was over 20 years ago. And the Swiss government and asked him, what can we do about this? He's like, take those antennas out of the church. We can't do that. So then he put shapes near them that would harmonize it. So harmonization means not blocking the signal. It means changing the quality of it from
Wow.
detrimental to where it's harmonious for life. And that's also what the cosmic tower does. That's also what a sacred power spot does. It harmonizes, it changes the quality of the energy. Because if we would block everything, well, your stuff stops working.
Right.
Your phone doesn't work anymore. It's not a solution. So now, when before I used to get maybe ticked off about another 5G tower, now I would say, thank you, another carrier wave. We're just going to hijack the information and change it from detrimental to beneficial.
So I've interviewed another guy who's behind Aries Tech,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to butcher this, but he basically talks about how the technology actually works better. This is his technology. When there is a stronger distortion field present, or like, not distortion field, a stronger negatively oriented electromagnetic field present. Is that the same case with the cosmic tower too?
Well, look at those technologies, the non-native EMFs, just carrier waves.
Got it.
Meaning they carry information far and wide through the environment. Now, the more of those carrier waves you have present, well, you have more carrier waves for beneficial information too. So it's
Got it.
really a hijacking of the carrier wave to where we have healing frequencies on top of those now versus the detrimental source that generates them.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. Because I talked to him about this too, where I could see where that might lead someone to the conclusion that, oh, you know what, like I can spend as much time as I possibly want amongst the non-native EMFs, and it has no detriment to my health. And yeah, what are your thoughts on that now, with like respect to this technology or the other technologies out there that help harmonize and put information that is beneficial to our biology into that information being transmitted?
Well, that's only one aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
I still believe that the more time we spend in nature, it's important because there's another aspect to it too. For example, even though we can change the quality of light in a sense at the subtle levels, well, there's also a signaling that happens to your body. If you have blue light coming through your eyes at night, it's signaling your body, hey, it's morning time, and your clock is all screwed up, right? So I would say definitely minimize it in a sense, but also you are nature, and what you put your focus on, you go into resonance with, you are exchanging information with, and that is changed and you are changed. But then also being a hypnotist, what you continuously put your focus on and repeat over and over, your subconscious mind is going to automate. So if you're always focused on tablets and cell phones and things that are really like not of nature, your subconscious mind has got it. That's the energy you love. You don't even have to worry about it. We're going to constantly focus on that. Right. So I would definitely say spend as much time as you can in nature. And these technologies are here to help mitigate, to help harmonize the effects of non-native EMF, and also other things. Our thoughts, our emotions also create that smog. Right? So, but ultimately, I also see the cosmic towers as training wheels, because ultimately, I believe that all of us, we become the new grid, because we have direct access to the source energy, to this harmonizing energy within. And that's what I like to focus on. I've been doing this for a decade now. Everywhere I go, I just want to leave the world a better place than I found it, and people don't even need to know. I don't even want them to know. So by constantly radiating this energy out in harmony, that gives me much joy, being like a secret agent of like harmonization. And that's where I see the future. But it's good to have training wheels in the beginning, like you learn to ride a bike. I mean, it's really hard to develop these skills and develop that sensitivity if you're getting bombarded all day long, right? So I see them as a transition. And then also because the towers, they're conscious, like we can co-create with them, and their role will shift as our role shifts.
Boom. So well said. So beautiful. I'd be interested to hear any studies that you all have done with the Cosmic Tower too.
Yes. So as well as I do, when you go into the space of harmonization and subtle energy, you cannot do a traditional science study because they're only looking at this 2%, right? So they exclude 98%. So you need a different science to measure devices like this. This is where physical radiesthesia comes in. And the methods that I use are from biogeometry, but these methods are thousands of years old. And these are tools that allow you to measure these energetic qualities at any layer of existence. And this is not woo-woo. The Egyptians used this. Actually, the Germans used it in World War II, used these tools to find landmines. They teach it to Marines. I mean, these things are well known. And to like the untrained eye, it would look a lot like mental dowsing. Right? But this is like not mental dowsing, because even though I know there are a lot of people that do it really well, you have to be really clear about, because you're asking questions from the mind, which is highly suggestive. Like if you have any conscious or unconscious bias, it's going to affect your measurements. Physical radiesthesia is completely different in that the instrument itself is built to have a resonance with the energy quality that you're measuring. And then, I mean, you just hold your focus there, no questions, and the instrument is gonna react based on whether that quality is present or not. So that's physical radiesthesia. The Germans, the French, they developed this really into a science, and Dr. Karim built upon it and created biogeometry to where the tools are even more sensitive, but also protect the practitioner more, because when you're tapping into detrimental energy, remember, when you go into resonance with something, awareness creates resonance, you're exchanging energy. So you have to be watchful with measuring these detrimental energies. So we have people all over that measure the cosmic towers and the effects in their home using radiesthesia, which is what we love. Stop looking at like people with lab coats and with diplomas to tell you what's good or bad for you, but learn to do it for yourself. Learn to measure these subtle energies that not only shape your reality, but everybody's reality. Learn to tap into that. Learn to determine for yourself, medicine to one, poison to another. You cannot just say, this is good for you and that's not. No. Empower yourself to measure that would be, the first recommendation. Learn these skills. They're very valuable. But then as far as studies, we have a lot of indirect measurements that you can see. For example, the effect of the cosmic tower on water, right? The cosmic tower structures the water. So anywhere within its radius, within its range, any faucet you open, that water will be structured.
Wow.
And it will be infused with the qualities of the healing water that's inside of it. So you can look on our website where people in Holland took tap water samples and then sent it to the lady that took pictures, kind of like what Masuro Emoto did.
Did Austin?
No, this was done in Holland.
Oh, okay.
And she had been doing it for 15 years, and they measured the vitality in water. And then you can see it on our website where before you see no vitality, and then exposed to a cosmic tower for 2 minutes, and then you see all these beautiful fern structures, and even rainbow hues were present in the water.
That's interesting, because if my memory serves me correctly, Veda sees fern structures primarily in unadulterated spring water.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're seeing fern structures in the frozen imagery after being next to the cosmic tower, that would indicate to me that it's just putting water back into its natural state.
Yes.
That's so interesting. Hey y'all, I'm here with Melissa Kupsch from Remedy Academy of Homeopathy. We are so stoked here at The Way Forward to be partnering with Melissa and Remedy in order to spread the message of homeopathy across the world, and also to partner on the eventual development of healing centers across the United States.
People are pretty quickly coming to realize that frequency is the future of medicine. We are witnessing the great resurgence of homeopathy right now. We're really moving away from that suppressive medical model. Whether it's for eczema, asthma, hormones, fertility, anxiety, depression, trauma, whatever it is, it all starts as energy in the person's field first. If we change our field, we can completely change our life. Our 2-year academy is open worldwide to anyone who wants to become a homeopath. We've got 5 lecturers and we currently have over 500 students enrolled, which is record numbers in our field. A career in homeopathy is amazing for anyone who wants flexibility in their work and who wants to be valuable in creating this new world. We have stay-at-home parents enrolled, we have ex-medical professionals, grandparents signed up who want to learn how to heal their grandchildren and pass on that invaluable knowledge. We even have husband and wife teams. So my husband enrolled in the course with no prior knowledge of health as a background, and he is loving it.
Kylie is also enrolled as well, so my partner is, and she's so stoked to become a homeopath and to be helping to spread this message across the world.
The thing that we hear from so many of our students is, I found my thing. Homeopathy is the key. We harness frequencies from nature and we alter the field of all creations. So if anybody wants to join us or they want to know more about it, they can visit our website.
Yeah, and all that information will be in the show notes. So if you want to learn more about Remedy Academy, also Remedy Collective, also some of the homeopathic products that they have, please just head to the show notes. All of that will be listed there. Most healthcare today operates on an outdated mechanistic model, treating the body like a battlefield rather than a self-healing system. You wait months for an appointment only to receive a rush diagnosis that labels you rather than truly understanding your unique health. Even in holistic health, many practitioners rely on endless lab tests and supplement protocols, addressing symptoms instead of the root cause. And the result? Another prescription or supplement regimen that merely suppresses or masks symptoms rather than facilitating true healing, whether the imbalance was physical, emotional, energetic, or a mix of all three. And that's why Dr. Tom Cowan co-founded the New Biology Clinic, to offer something radically different. As one of the most respected natural health doctors in the world, Dr. Cowan has spent decades challenging conventional medicine and advancing a deeper understanding of human biology, water, and natural health. His work isn't just about rejecting the mainstream, it's about offering a more truthful, biologically coherent approach for healing. The New Biology Clinic recognizes that health isn't about fighting disease, it's about restoring balance. You're not a diagnosis, you're an individual with a unique story, and healing should honor that. With virtual consultations available worldwide, the clinic offers a flat-rate monthly membership that gives you direct access to practitioners who take the time to actually listen. Members also get exclusive health live streams, a resource library, and live sessions covering everything from biofield tuning and breathwork to movement and meditation, all designed to support whole body healing. And if you're not ready for a membership, you can book a one-time appointment, sign up for an enrichment-only membership for the healing modalities alone, or schedule a free connection session with one of the care team members to see how the New Biology Clinic can help in your specific situation. This isn't about keeping you dependent on doctors. It's about making you sovereign over your health. Head to newbiologyclinic.com and use code THEWAYFORWARD, and that's spelled The Way, F-O-R-W-A-R-D, for $50 off account activation, or just head to the show notes for more info. If you're a member of The Way Forward, email hello@thewayforward.com for $150 off. Your body already knows how to heal, and New Biology Clinic helps you remember.
So that's one thing. And then we have people that have done measurements with BioWell from Korotkov, where you can measure the energy and the stress in the body, right? They would measure it, and then you see a lot of stress in the person's system, low energy, and they would hold one of the small towers on their timers for a few minutes, and then you can see a reduction in stress and an increase in the energy. But what really got me excited about this project was a German dowser, and this was like unsolicited. He bought one of the 75s and he was so impressed. He would do his measurements. He would do that for a living. He would measure the Bovis value, basically how much life force is in a space or in a product or whatever. And then he would also measure hyper sound, which you know, when we talked about that electrosmog effect, you could think of that as this continuous background noise in the ether that you can't hear, but your cells are listening to death metal 24/7. And with this hypersound, they measure how many decibels of that distortion is present in the environment. So he was so impressed with his 75 that he bought one of the big ones, 220s, for his environment 6 months later. And he was reading in the newspaper how there were these 3 decommissioned nuclear plants in Germany where everybody was just getting cancer and was getting all these chronic diseases, and a lot of people would die in those areas. And the German government's like, no, look at the measurements, everything is safe, there is no problem. Yeah. So he wanted to go check for himself, and he jumped in his car and he drove over there and he did his measurements of the quality. He said it was so bad, I just jumped in my car and drove out of there as fast as I could. Then he got back home, and you can consciously work with your cosmic towers. So he pointed his 220 and the network of the big towers to those 3 nuclear plants. And he was absolutely amazed that 3 days later, these issues were resolved.
Whoa.
And that's what got me so excited, because think about radioactivity, dealing with that from a scientific paradigm, mainstream science. Yeah, it's really hard to solve, right? But not if you go in the subtle.
Mm-hmm.
If you go in the subtle, like, it's like if you want to affect the stream, where are you going to apply your solution? Where the stream goes into the ocean or closer to the source? The closer you get to the source, the more powerful your solutions get. So this guy, and it's on our website, wrote in a whole report. And we didn't know about this. He just like mailed that in, like unsolicited, saying like, here are my measurements that I've done. And we really love that, because one of the things is that we want people to be self-empowered again, and stop relying on white coats and doctors or authority figures thinking they're going to do the right thing for us, which they've never really done or have no interest in. I believe this is a grassroots. We are going to change this world, and each and every one of us, and we're going to build a new world from the ground up. And this is just a part of that.
Amen. Well said again. Man, dropping so many bombs in this one in a good way. Coherence bombs. One of the things you said there about him with the cosmic tower, that you can consciously work with your cosmic tower. So I'm sure you're familiar with the Maharishi effect, when people get together and like meditate with focused intention on one thing. I've covered this on a variety of episodes, covered this in my solo cast. I think it was episode 175. There are so many examples of the Maharishi effect, and I don't think it's specific to transcendental meditation in any way. But when you talk about like the field that this generates, right? And this guy had the intention to help that situation with the smog, essentially. Is it that, this is getting pretty out there, but is it that his conscious intention regarding using the cosmic tower to help bring back coherence and balance to that ecosystem was carried through the field that is emitted by the cosmic tower, almost in the same way that the Maharishi effect works, where a lot of people are orienting their specific thought energy that is of a specific frequency and resonance towards something to bring coherence related to whatever that intention is to that specific area. You see what I'm getting at? Like,
yes.
And that may seem pretty out there for some people, but like,
no, everything is conscious.
Yeah.
Remember, like, from the electron to the universe itself, everything is conscious. Right. And also another thing he does in that report that he sent is says that often he works with clients that are outside of the range of his tower, but he will set his intention through his tower and it will work through the network, and they will call him after 2 days and say like, oh my gosh, I'm feeling so much better, and thank you. Right. So I see that the way I see it, and you know this obviously since you covered the Maharishi project is that 1 + 1 in consciousness does not equal 2. If you and I get in total resonance and are fully unified with our intent, our power is much greater than just the two of us combined. It's an exponential scale.
That the Bible verse where 2 or more are gathered in my name, there I am.
Yes.
Like there is so much deeper meaning to that than most people realize. Like the I am comes through where 2 or more are gathered in my name with intention pointing towards something.
Yes.
Like
so here you have the tower, which is also conscious, but it's just not in a form that we recognize as conscious.
Right.
Usually. So here again, you're combining your consciousness with another higher consciousness, and the sum total is much more, and you direct it. And then I'm not saying he just used his tower. What I think might also have been going on, there was a lot of other big towers around, so they focused on that area and just cleared it.
Wow.
And that's what I love, because if anything, I want people to know how powerful we really are. I think we barely scratch the surface. That's what gets me excited.
Same.
Everybody's like, the future looks this and that and whatever. I'm like, heck no, the future looks great, but we're going to have to do it ourselves.
Yeah.
And unite and come together and tap into this vast power that we have within ourselves, and we can transform. We could literally transform this world overnight if we had enough people just unifying. And that's the other thing sometimes, that I get a little impatient, but I also know that there's everything in divine timing, and that things unfold in the way they're supposed to, ultimately at a higher level.
Yeah, amen. It's kind of like what you're talking about with your time after having that moment of self-realization with your Taoist master that you were working with, and then you went through that purification process. It's almost like that's what mankind is in the midst of right now.
Absolutely.
And it might get, I don't even like saying this, but there might be some things that rise to the surface, both as inside of us as individuals, those people listening to this, but also amongst the collective, that it might appear very dark for a little bit, but that's going to birth something that is absolutely beautiful if we're willing to just ride the waves, so to speak.
Hey, you just went through it. Birds can be messy.
Yeah.
And it's oftentimes when there's the greatest darkness, that's the moment right before the dawn. And from what you've been saying, you've been through that dark night of the soul. Well, I've been through that, and I went again through it. But I
think we'll always go through a little bit more too.
Exactly,
right?
And we're collectively going through that. Yeah. So that's why I will tell people, don't pay so much attention to what's going on out there, because know that the collective and the individual, it's always a two-way street. So you have the ultimate power within yourself. The more you tap into that, the more you change that out there. That doesn't mean you have to be ignorant, stick your head in the sand. But what I mean is look at it, but know that we are beings that create through resonance, through focus. What we put our awareness on, we invite more of, individually and collectively. Now you add to that charge, well, I'm going to fight it. The war on, you're giving it even more energy. Right? So observe it and know that you're looking at the past. If you're looking in the now, you're looking at the sum total of all our past decisions, thoughts, and feelings. But right now, it's just informing you on what all we chose for in the past, what it created, so we can choose something different. No, you're already looking at the past. Let it go. Choose what you want instead if you don't like it.
I don't even know what to say to that, because that's so well said. It's so well said. Man, I said this to Nico off air. I was like, it's so hard for me when someone is saying so many things that I agree with, and so many things that I've said in variations of myself throughout a variety of episodes and talks that I give or shares that I share on social media, not to just interrupt, but I'm over here in my chair as he's talking, just nodding my head, smiling like, yes. So well said. I have a couple more questions related to the Cosmic Tower. One is, so you mentioned the vortexing motion of the water with the crystal in the middle, and that makes a lot of sense to me. So, but it's not that the water is actually in there still moving, is it? It was sort of, how do I put this? When it was created so that it was in that motion.
Energetically.
Got it.
So
Okay.
look, the Russians called it torsion fields.
Okay.
Right? They realized that everything on the subatomic level was spinning.
Got it.
And either was spinning one way to where it was moving life force out of this realm, or it spins another way to where it brings life force back into this realm. So imagine like two opposite rotations creates that torsion field, which is then that toroidal field.
Got it.
So if you look at, in the biogeometry, we talk about qualitative torsion. So a lot of people always ask, but how can it neutralize toxins and neutralize this? Because we compartmentalize everything. No, if you look at the energetic level, subatomic level, the counterclockwise takes life force out of this realm, clockwise brings more life force in. That's why if you look, that's why all the temples of the living are on the east bank of the Nile, and the ones of the dead are on the west bank, because the Nile flows from south to north, which is a massive energy moving, which creates two vortexes, one clockwise, one counterclockwise. So on the west bank, counterclockwise, moving energy back to the spiritual realms. On the east bank, where the temples of the living were built, it brings energy more into the physical realm. Right, so it's moving this energy, but the problem is then with the non-native EMS, we have all this counterclockwise that is not connected to life force. It's out of balance.
Wow. So it's like trying to send us into the spirit realm.
Well, not even really, because people say, oh, clockwise good, counterclockwise bad. No, not necessarily. If you look at the Sufis, they go counterclockwise, but they're in their center. And they're connected, through resonance with the higher realms. As they're doing that, they have awareness of that, while we're creating all this counterclockwise artificial vortices that just basically, zap the life force out of this realm.
Got it. Okay. Man, there's so much more that I need to explore related to counterclockwise and clockwise, because I have a lot of thoughts coming up, but I don't want to go off on too much of a tangent there. That's fascinating though. Okay. The other thing is that it has to be on a surface in order to work well. Why is that?
Well, it's not that it wouldn't work well, and this is for the smaller towers. If you look at the real big ones, they sit on the floor.
Okay.
With these, we recommend the smaller ones that are at least a foot off the floor, and the reason for that is the inventor would call it house dust. That's hanging in a space. So when the cosmic tower's energy field, it neutralizes all that, then drops to the ground. So in a way, it's feeling like it's sitting in the dirt of what it's just created. Not like your tower wouldn't function if you put it on the floor, but I always say realize that it is conscious, and you have a guest in your home that is helping you with all these things that you're aware of, and many that you might not even be aware of. So be respectful. Put it in a place to where you interact with it. Put it in a place that you know that it can do its job the best you can. Don't go put your Wi-Fi router on it. Don't go put it on your fridge on an obvious source of distortion, but put it in a place to where you know it's the easiest for it to build its field. Not like it's not going to work, but be respectful and give it the best location, and also give it a location to where you more consciously interact with it, because like any relationship, communication is the key. If you're going to stick it in a closet, right, it's not like it's going to stop working, but it's not going to be optimal, and you're not going to get the most benefit out of it.
Got it. And is there anything that can sort of put it into a state of discord or anything like that? Or is the resonance coming off of it permanent? Yeah.
So, I mean, discord, It depends, like, because we have a lot of people think like, oh, I get this cosmic tower, now everything's going to be harmonious and I can just sit on the couch and everything's going to be done for me. No, difficulties will still come up because they are part of our path, right? But what we've noticed is that they're more graceful.
Right. I meant more so like, how do I put this? Is there any, like, let's say you set it right next to a 5G tower.
Oh,
Would
okay.
that cause it to lose its coherence that is emitted from it?
No.
Okay.
No, not that we've seen.
Okay.
Right, but then I don't know of anybody that put it like right on top of like
That's
a tower.
an extreme example, but
Yeah, but we do
you
have people that have a tower, like let's say in their backyard or on the roof above their building. No, that's not an issue because its field is like strong enough. Now, what does happen, for example, like let's say that you take the 35, which is less than half that size, but it's 6 times less powerful. So what can happen if you take that in an environment like, let's say, the LA or whatever, where there's so much distortion, the way I describe it to people is imagine that it creates a bubble and all this distortion is pushing back. At some point it's going to find an equilibrium because certain things it only has to neutralize once. For example, if there was somebody with depression living in your home before you, or there was an argument to be had, that's still in the ether. But it only needs to clear that one time. Because if that person's not there anymore, now that's gone.
Makes sense.
But certain things are continuously reinforcing that energy, like 5G and other things. So when you get a tower at your home, it's going to start expanding out. And then it's going to find an equilibrium after 1 to 2 weeks, where it's basically at its maximum power and its maximum benefit. But within the bubble, the energy is always going to be, let's say, at the same strength. It's more a matter of how far is it going to go out.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, and then can we talk about the 3?
Everybody always asks about that.
Yeah, is that? Well, I just want to know. I want to know what that's referencing.
Well, so the
why
inventor, who sadly passed away a few years ago in a car accident, but he always told me this was cosmetic and there was nothing to it. I feel there's more to it, but I can't tell with certainty. I cannot put words in his mouth, but I feel like there's something about like the blue light hitting the crystal. Now, I'll tell you a crazy story about
my blue bottle. Yeah, because like you know what I mean? Like something about blue with water. And Caden has said this to me. Shout out to Caden from Blue Bottle Love. I don't remember the exact reason, but why water is best to be consumed out of a blue bottle. I don't remember why, but there's something to that.
There's definitely something to it. And also, this funny story when I was in Egypt. So I know the elder that lives by the first house by the Sphinx, Scheherazade Awiyan, and she is the daughter of Abdel Hakim Awiyan, who started chemtology to teach the knowledge from his lineage versus what the Egyptologists say. So we would do tours with her in Egypt. And when I first brought my cosmic tower to the house we're staying in Luxor, it's a beautiful temple home, but it has blue windows and it doesn't have big windows, so there's not very much light in the home because it gets so hot in the summer. And I was telling my girlfriend, like, man, I wish I could find a spot like where it has more like natural light, but I couldn't find it, so I put it in a spot there and forgot about it. So Scheherazade, she comes to our place. We were doing a tour over the Nile where we go from temple to temple, and I never tell people what the cosmic tower is. I just pay attention to who notices and who asks. And she comes in our home, and I was telling my girlfriend later, I was like, I'm kind of surprised that Scheherazade didn't say anything about the tower, but whatever. 2 weeks later, we're sitting in Cairo, and we're having tea, and Scheherazade, she asked me, hey, Nico, I forgot to ask you something. When I was at your home, there was this box with these 3 blue eyes in it. What is this? I was like, well, it's a power spot. She's like, hold on. Don't tell me anymore. I'm tuning into it now. She's like, you know you can talk to it, right? You know it's conscious? I was like, yeah, it is. She's like, hold on. It has a message for you. And then she tells me, okay, its message for you is it would like a little ray of sunlight. And my girlfriend about spit out her tea when she heard that. Did you hear us out just say that the tower was the city like more sunlight? I'm like, yep. It was like such a beautiful confirmation. It just goes to show.
Right.
She totally tapped into it. And what I was dealing with a month before that, she like called it out. So long story short, I do think there is something to it. And from my experience, yeah, they do like to be exposed to like sunlight, because I think there's something with the light going.
Yeah. Wow. Something to
Going
do with
through.
Orion's belt, maybe. It's funny how like you mentioned the 3 dots on your chest, though. Like,
I know.
so cool. That's so cool. I know our mutual friend Sarah Kleiner mentioned, and I don't know if it's appropriate to mention this guy's name, but someone who's, let's just say, very sensitive to subtle energy, walked in her house and saw that and was like, "What is that?" And immediately asked Sarah everything about it and was like, "There's something about that is incredibly powerful." So that's actually her sharing that story. I was like, oh, I want to interview that guy, please. I want to interview the team behind Cosmic Tower. Awesome. This has been such an incredible conversation, man. Thank you so much for being here on your birthday too. So happy birthday to you.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. This is just amazing conversation. Is there anything else you want to share related to Cosmic Tower? Anything else you're working on?
No, the Cosmic Tower is a big part of my focus, but what I really love to do is also help people clear.
I want to get you back on to talk about that.
Yeah, maybe we'll do a separate thing then, because it's so important. Because I want people to know how powerful they are, and I want them to know that it's already there, but we just have to clear the noise, because that's a big part of this project in a way too. I do this for the outer world, but my real passion is like unlocking that genius we all have within, which we each individually are a part of. So maybe we'll do another one on that. I would love to talk to you about that, and that's another part of my work that it's really important. But I just want people to know you are really powerful. Each and every one of you have a unique gift that nobody else has. And when we unlock all those gifts and we bring them together, we will bring heaven on earth. And that's what we're here to do. And then all these children are born now with these exceptional gifts. It's up to all of us to clear the energetic space for them. They are the teachers that are coming in now. They are going to show us the way. So don't get all caught around the axle about the medical system and politics and all that. That is only there to focus, to have your focus removed from where your power lies, which is within here. So go look there and you'll find everything that you're looking for. It's between you and Source, and there should be no middleman. And when we unlock all of that, yeah, that heaven, that new earth, it's already here. We're just keeping that old thing that we don't want alive with our stories and our focus on the things we really don't want. So once we shift all that, oh yeah, I'm really looking forward to the world we're going to co-create. So thank you for what you're doing, to help people remember that. We don't have to become anybody else. We just have to remember who we already are.
Nothing else to say. That's it. Nico, thank you so much, man. This is awesome.
Thank you. I had so much fun.